it is sound business risk management to say, look, if there's a risk that this could happen to us, then you've got to say either I can fund a defence myself and I'm going to put money aside to do that, or I'll transfer that to the insurer.
Welcome to the Business Behind Your Business, conversations to help your business grow and thrive. Hi, I'm Paul Sweeney, founder of Pretium Solutions, Chartered Accountants and Certified Business Advisors, hosting the Business Behind Your Business. Okay, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business, and today we're going to be looking at a topic that a lot of business owners have trouble with or just don't understand, we find, and we're going to unpack this idea of insurance. Now, before you think that's a bit dry, we're going to make sure that it's a very interesting topic and why you need to make sure you get this right in your business. So today I'm joined by Dave Ferris from DavelCorp. And Dave, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
It's great to have you on board, and we're going to tap into your experience because you've got quite an extensive experience in the insurance industry. You just want to tell us a little bit more about how you've come about this experience.
Well, I could say I always wanted to be insurance since I was 12 years old, but that'd be a lie. So I've sort of been in the insurance industry for over 40 years, but involved in risk management, direct insurance, reinsurance and agency management, and have been sort of broking now for 15 years.
Great. So what is an insurance broker? So we're going to look at, today we're going to look at the general insurances that every business owner should either have or at least consider. But what's the role of a broker in this process?
Well, I guess a broker, people don't have to use a broker. They can, if they're confident in their own insurance ability, understanding policy wordings and coverage, they can go to a limited direct market. So the beauty of an insurance broker, they are a qualified and professional provider of advice. When you go direct, you don't get advice. They just sell you a product that you ask for. So the beauty of advice is it actually tailored to the bespoke needs of a risk profile of a client. And so as a broker, our job is to understand the risk profile first. And then once we understand the business, then we can actually identify the actual needs or potential needs that a client, a business needs to protect that risk profile, should they decide to actually that risk transfer of our insurance is the mechanism they wish to proceed with.
Right, and so we can go and self-prepare our insurances. But the thing is, when most people go into business, they don't come with a background in insurance, right. So they don't generally know what the insurance or what insurance they
don't
need.
know what they don't know.
That's right.
People are in business because of their core areas of expertise. And that's why it's good to lean into experts, whether it's legal experts or lean into accounting experts. Similarly, we'd like people to feel comfortable leaning in to a risk and professional insurance expert, because protecting the risk profile of a business is good risk management.
That's right. And look, most people don't really think of insurance as a necessity until they need think they need to claim. And unfortunately, when they get to that point, most of them find out that they weren't actually insured for what they thought they were insured for. And that's really, if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to get your insurance correct. So what are the main or the fundamental types of insurance that every business owner should consider? Well,
I guess we don't view it as buying a policy. It's not about saying, well, here's a whole suite of different policies that you can buy. Which ones can a broker sell you? From our point of view, we believe it should start at the risk profiling piece. Understand what the risks that are inherent in that particular business. And so, the business, it's not compulsory to buy insurance. The only two compulsory insurances are CTP, associated with your vehicle registration, and workers' comp. So everything else, it's just up to you as a business to say, do I want the potential risk of these, or the cost of these risks sitting on my business balance sheet, or do I want to transfer them to the balance sheet of an insurance company, who are obviously far more capitalised? So things, for example, I would never be in business without public liability insurance. Public liability insurance is the insurance that protects you from whenever anybody might bring a legal action against your business for you causing property damage or bodily injury, and they're holding you responsible for that. So that's probably the most critical cover of any business size whatsoever, is protecting you, because it costs you 30 to 50 grand to defend even a vexatious claim. So can you afford to do that?
And that where does that come in most? Like if you're operating from a home office and you're not having people attend, is that public liability going to be essential there, or is it more where you've got an office or a retail outlet where people are visiting?
It's wherever you as a business are flying your flag as a brand. So even if it's online or you're attending business networking events, or wherever you're promoting your business, you are potentially creating a liability to that brand. All right. So even from an online perspective, you could be creating a potential defamation or libel or slander, and so the risk of that to your balance sheet, if somebody wishes to bring an action against you and say, I have been mentally anguished by what you have presented about a subject, then an action could be brought against you for that. It's not just the causing property damage or injuring a person. Bodily injury is expanded to include mental anguish now. You know, it's not just bodily injury; it's mental injury as well.
Right. Okay. Right. So really, it doesn't matter what environment you're working in. If you're in a pure online environment, you should still have that. Absolutely. Consider that an essential.
And more so if you actually have customers, because you have a contractual relationship with a customer. You have suppliers and customers. Whenever you're signing a contract, you're actually taking on a potential liability. If you then expand to have employees, you're also taking on additional liabilities through employment contracts. So it's hard to avoid, as a business, a liability exposure, because if you don't have a liability exposure, then you're not promoting yourself, or you don't have any customers.
And therefore you don't have a business. So
that's right.
So now, public liability you've talked about. Now, is that different to liability for injury caused by one of your products?
Right. Okay. So the products here in Australia are typically badged and labelled products and public liability. Okay. It's a combined policy.
Oh, okay.
All right. And so even though you may not have a product, the policy is a public and products liability policy. That's what they're called. They're generically known as general liability. And so if you do have a product and that product creates a liability to a customer or a third party, that product liability is incorporated within that same product policy.
So I'm guessing from what you're saying, and correct me here, if I'm manufacturing a product, I'm going to have different risks to somebody that is just providing maybe just consulting advice.
Sure. So, and that's where the role of a broker comes in, because your risk profile as a business, which a broker should be engaged with you in, includes understanding the risks that evolve from your assets, from employing staff, from whether you're manufacturing and selling products, providing services, providing advice, signing contracts such as leases or suppliers and customers contracts. It could be importing, could be exporting, engaging with vulnerable people, aged, children, or even disabled. That creates different exposures as well. And then also you could be operating machinery and equipment, or your revenue could be dependent upon a supplier or a customer. So these are risk profiling undertakings that a business needs to have somebody help them understand, and based on that, then determine how best to protect that business based on those variable exposures.
And there's a risk there that you're going to overlook that or not understand your risk when you're going online and just purchasing a policy off the shelf.
Well, exactly, because you're dependent upon your own knowledge, because the direct insurance market aren't able at law to give you bespoke advice. It can't be tailored advice. It's always called general advice. They'll give you a general advice warning, which means all they can do is talk about the product. They cannot determine whether that product is adequate for your needs. All right, so you've got to have confidence. You know what your risk is. You know how the product operates. And in this environment that's evolved over the last 9 months, there's a whole lot of different policy coverages which have been restricted and changed. And so you've got to be wise about understanding what an insurer is imposing on you. Because as you say, Paul, quite often the value of insurance only comes to the fore in the event of a claim.
Yeah. So we're talking about public liability here, and How does it transfer? Well, we've seen a lot more employees working from home of recent times. How is that affecting people's insurance?
Well, I guess it covers a couple of different insurances because workers' comp has had to be expanded to beyond just the four walls of the office to be allowed to operate at an individual's home. All right, so workers' comp is extended to the home that an employee is operating in. All right, from a liability point of view, I guess a lot of people operate from home offices, and sometimes the only liability that people have in their business is relying on the household liability insurance.
Yep.
But you've got to let the household insurers know that yes, we are running a business, and we do have visitors, and we do have couriers coming and dropping off parcels and things, and we have printers dropping off documentation. And so that's a different risk profile that the underwriters really need to know about. And some don't tolerate people running businesses from their home. So that has to be communicated to that home insurer.
Right. And so there's a risk there that if you don't communicate effectively or actually disclose correctly what's going on in your business, then you could actually jeopardise your home insurance.
Yeah. If you're relying on that liability. So the key is disclosure. And there are so many different products available. This is a very general comment to make, but there are there's an enormous amount of policies with different conditions. And the key is to understand whether the policy conditions are right for your business exposure, for what you're doing and how you're operating, and to rely on that yourself is a challenge.
Yeah, and of course we've all read the disclosure statements in detail as we've been taking out our policy, and there's a risk there that people don't understand what they're buying. Yeah. So look, a lot of consultants and professionals that we deal with. I think there's another kind of insurance that's applicable to them that they, I guess, believe that they're covered by under their general insurance, but really they're not. And
professional indemnity?
Professional indemnity, yes.
Yeah, we see this a lot.
Yeah.
So professional indemnity used to be a coverage that was only required by architects, doctors and lawyers, but it's expanded now such that it's to protect any entity that is providing a professional advice that a third party is relying on. All right, so so if that advice is given, somebody relies on it and suffers a financial loss, you can be held accountable for that. So that's completely different to a bodily injury and a property damage loss, which liability indemnifies for.
Right.
So this is a financial loss where the trigger for the loss is as a result of wrongful advice or poor advice. All right? So you've got to think, are you in a position of actually providing advice that people are relying on?
Yep.
That if they could suffer financial loss, could hold you accountable for that.
Yeah, and I think some people think they only need to get it if their professional body, if they're a member of one, requires it. But it's more wide-reaching than that.
And look, once again, it's not one of those compulsory insurances, but it is sound business risk management to say, look, if there's a risk that this could happen to us, then you've got to say either I can fund a defence myself and I'm going to put money aside to do that, or I'll transfer that to the insurer because I just can't tolerate that.
Yeah.
And more customers are requiring, and they're the ones that dictate, I will not deal with you unless you can provide me $2, $5, $10 million of professional indemnity, $5, $10, $20 million of general liability.
Yeah.
And so they're dictating, I won't deal with you as a supplier until you provide me evidence that you're robust enough that if something goes wrong, I can rely on your insurances.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look, I think we're only just starting to unpack this. There seems to be so much more in here. It's not a simple case of going online, buying an insurance policy and away you go. I think there is a lot more to it. We haven't even really touched on some of the aspects. So I know one of the things we want
How long have you got, Paul?
Well, I think we're going to have to get you back because we're going to have to go into these in a bit more detail because we haven't even talked about a topical kind of or two topical kinds of insurance at the moment. So, and they're business interruption and cyber. Now, business interruption is one that catches a lot of people by surprise in that they don't have it. Can we just we'll
very quickly, because it's quite topical in this whole COVID environment, but business interruption is a type of cover which traditionally relies on a property trigger. So whether you've got a property policy, whether it's a package policy or a specific industrial special risk type property policy, if there's a property loss trigger, meaning there's an insurable claim under the policy, whether it's fire, lightning, storm, whatever, and your property's damaged, then that can open up an opportunity for you to then claim the lost revenue or lost profits, depending on your structure, that will be derived from as a result of that loss. So if you've suffered a property loss, then the business interruption that follows from that property loss can be insured as well.
All right. And that's a separate component?
No, it's typically, it can be a separate section within a composite policy, but normally it's not a standalone policy, it's part of a property policy.
Okay.
And look, there's so many different, that's a topic in its own,
absolutely.
of how to explore that risk exposure and how to actually insure it properly. But that's it in a thumbnail anyway.
Great. Okay, and look, the other topical one at the moment is this cyber security insurance. We'll only talk briefly about this because this deserves a whole topic of a whole conversation on its own.
Well, it's been an emerging risk now for the last 3 years, and it's the simple way to explain it is the old traditional property insurances are what's called in industrial mechanical age physical property damage type policies. What's been missing is what's called digital losses.
Yeah.
So you can actually suffer a digital loss without any physical damage. So the traditional physical damage policies haven't been able to respond properly or being endorsed properly. So now it's the whole era of how to address a digital loss, whether it's your own costs to prevent further damage, to eradicate forensically the cause, any physical damage that might be suffered, as well as any liability that could be incurred from you because you've sent something malicious to somebody else inadvertently. Yep. So it's a whole separate area, but digital versus physical.
Okay, so it is I guess a modern day risk. It's a new topic, very much critical, I think, for every business now we're looking at, not just those that are dealing with sensitive data, but every business. Yeah. So we're going to definitely unpack that in more detail because it's well worth looking into. There's so much to it. Look, I think we're going to have to get you back multiple times to talk about some of these issues because it is, when we're setting up businesses with clients, one of the first things they say was, what kind of insurance do I need? And it is a question because when you're building up a business asset, you want to protect it. So
the takeaway that we'd like to leave is that instead of thinking insurance, think risk. You're starting up a business, having your clients think, okay, what have I undertaken a good due diligence on the risk profiles in my business? And then when you do that, then you can say, how much of these risks can I tolerate myself? How much of them can I bear myself? And what are the ones I should be transferring? Yep. And so think risk, all right, before you think insurance.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks for that, Dave. So, Dave, if people want to get in contact with you or find out more about how you can help their business, particularly, where should they go?
Well, I guess our website is all the W's, riskybusiness.com.au. And from there, we've got our contact pages, and we'd be pleased even just to have a discovery chat. Because we're really in the business of just helping people to understand this whole risk profile game, and we worry about the insurance piece later.
Great, fantastic. So we'll put that link in the show notes. So you're listening on any of the podcast players that are available, you'll be able to find the link to Dave's business and Risky Business, which will help you avoid risk or not so much avoid risk, but mitigate that risk, deal with risk. So thanks again, Dave, for talking with us today. It's been great, and we will investigate those other topics in more detail in the future.
Good on you, Paul.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for listening. Do you have a question you'd like our team of experts to answer? If you do, send your question to podcast@thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. To hear more from The Business Behind Your Business, don't forget to subscribe using your favourite podcast player. Or you can visit the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website.